We're happy to be talking with Dennis Bowsher, who is the head superintendent at the OSU golf courses. That's the Scarlet and the Gray, 36 holes in Columbus. Dennis, 15 years at the OSU. You must be doing something right.
Well, I hope so. It's been a pleasure working for the athletic department, and so it's fun being around all the young college players and so forth. So yeah, good.
I got my Buckeye shirt on this morning here. You can look at that.
Yeah,
Go
yeah, me
Bucks.
too.
Hey, you got the Robert Kepler going on right now. That's a really one of the major college events, college tournaments in the country every year.
Yeah, that's the Robert Kepler was the first head coach for the golf team back in the day, and that's who the clubhouse was named after. And it's a men's invitational, and I think we have 13 schools here for this week participating. Several from the Big Ten. I think there's 4 from the MAC. Atlantic Athletic and one other Liberty. I'm not sure what conference they're in, but so big to small, there's a lot of really good competition.
The OSU women's team is always very competitive, and you've got the NCAA Regionals for the women coming in there this year.
We do. So in another 2.5, 3 weeks, it starts on Mother's Day with a practice round, and then they have 3 days of competition with the student athletes advancing to the national championship. So 3 teams will advance and individuals. So we have 6 other individuals that will be competing. And I think that it's May the 3rd that the draw is live on Golf Channel, as we'll know what teams are going to be participating at that point.
When you set up the golf course between men and women, the Scarlet course, of course, is an Alistair McKenzie design. Jack Nicklaus renovated, I think, in 2007, somewhere along in there. And it can be a pretty tough golf course. What kind of yardage difference do you use between the men and the women when you're setting that up?
A lot of it, if it's just the Lady Buckeye, which is just like the Kepler, it's just a regular season event. There's probably, the men usually try to put it back there at 7,200 and par 71, and the women will play it as a par 72 and play about 64, 6,500, depending on the weather. They'll shorten it up a little bit if we're really soft and wet, and the men will too if it's soft and wet. For the regional, that's where we'll be, is that 6,400 range.
That'll be enough challenge. I know years ago when I used to play there all the time, I think we played probably about 64, 65, maybe something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's a plenty for the average golfer. That is a plenty on Scarlet especially.
Yeah, when Nicklaus did the restoration in it was 05 and it opened back in 06 with it, he added some tees, and that stretches it to 74, 40 and a par 71. So if you play it back there, that's all the lunch you need right there.
Well, then you have the Corn Ferry 2 that stops in there every year in August, and part of their final series, and they definitely don't tear the golf course up when they're there.
No, we've hosted that. This will be the 15th year when we host it this fall or this August, and the scores have been as low as 5 under for the winner for the 4 days, and that was a year without rain, so the golf course got really firm. And we've been 14 under, I think, is the lowest, and that was several days of rain where they could play lift clean in place, and then just the greens get soft. The fairways are soft and the greens are soft, so they can just hit it as hard as they want, don't have to worry about bouncing through the fairways, and then they put their hands on the ball and get them a nice lie, and then they just throw darts, and they get that score through there.
Dennis, we should mention that you were a 38-year member of the Golf Course Superintendent Association. You've been at OSU for 15 years, as I mentioned. And so you have a little bit of experience behind you. We want to talk about, Earth Day, I think was a couple days ago. And so tied in this was, we want to talk about golf course sustainability and how you guys watch out for water usage and make sure you're not over fertilization and all that kind of thing. You hear all these people maybe complaining if they're non-golfers. They say, well, golf courses, they use too much stuff and they're polluting the neighborhood and all that kind of thing. That's not really true, is it?
No, it really isn't. And 38 years in the experience, that just means I'm old, is what that means. But
I'm with you, buddy.
but really, my associates with other golf course superintendents and so forth, we practiced sustainable practices long before it was ever cool to use the sustainability term. I just can't remember from the time I started on a golf course at 15 years old, ever just being reckless with chemical apps or fertilizer. Nobody can afford to. You buy exactly what you need to do that. So that's part of it. We're licensed professionals with whether it's a pesticide license or whatever. So we value the resources that we have, and we're stewards of the land. We love what we do. We've got no incentive to destroy our land. Everybody wants to make it better than when they got there. And to your point about waterways and so forth, we have a creek that feeds into our irrigation lake, and it comes from, so when you look at our watershed, it goes way up and around, and that creek brings in so many bottles and trash and softballs and crap. Well, we also test the nutrient levels coming in, and we've tested it almost every year since I've been there. There is always a greater nutrient content right where it enters the property than where it leaves. It has always been the case, regardless of what year we have tested it. And we probably, out of that 15, we've probably tested it 12 times like that. So it's just a fact. Homeowners are more reckless. Stuff goes onto their driveway, they blow it down, or the clippings, everything goes into the street. So it goes into the storm sewers. The storm sewers go into the creek comes to our place, and we get all their trash and their nutrient loads from being reckless. But as a golf course superintendent, our profession, we're very exact with what we apply.
Dennis, as a superintendent, and you see golfers out there every day taking big divots and all the kind of stuff that golfers do out there. If you could just grab one golfer and or tell one of our listeners, say, hey, this would really help me out a lot if you would do this, what's that one thing?
I guess the one thing would be the whole ball of just look back at the history of golf course etiquette, and if you tear something up, fix it. If it's a divot and it's moist and you got a big chunk of soil, put it back. If you've just skimmed it, there isn't anything you can do. Fill it in with your divot bottle, and fix your own ball marks. We take an extra, it costs us an extra 35-40 minutes per person a day mowing greens of repairing ball marks before we run the mowers across them. So those are simple little things. Throw your trash away, pick up trash when you see it. It's so just all those little things that cause maintenance crews to do things and actually cost money for your club or the golf course that you're playing.
Dennis, I also understand you're doing a little bit of an outreach program with some middle school students. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening with that?
Yeah, we didn't get to do it in this last, well, actually we did. It was the spring of 2020, just before the pandemic hit. We worked with a local Jones Middle School, and they were 7th graders, and they were doing some environmental studies and so forth. And we collaborated with them, got donations from Site One for some trees. So they came over and we talked about our watershed and some of our practices. but the whole 7th grade class came over, and my staff took them around and we planted close to 70 trees. I can't remember the exact number now, but
You need those after Jack took them all out back in '05.
well, he didn't, there really wasn't that many that were taken out, and the emerald ash borer took a whole lot more than what Jack ever did. So, but we made them in, bought 3 or 5 gallon container trees that these young people could handle. But a lot of them just love the crap out of it. They just really liked getting their hands in the dirt and actually planting a tree and showing them how to do it right. And they were broken up into small groups, and we moved them around. We also have some invasive honeysuckle along the edges of our woods. And some of these young kids got a chance to use some loppers and a saw. And they just, they were like, I don't know, the grasshopper plague. They just went in there and just took it out, which was fantastic. I wanted to keep them for several days and just keep going through, because the boys were having so much fun. They just didn't want to stop. It was fun.
That's really good stuff. Been talking with Dennis Bowsher, who is the head superintendent at OSU golf courses in Columbus, Ohio. Been there for 15 years. Dennis, thanks so much for taking a few minutes and chatting with us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, Fred. Anytime.